Welcome. This is the Resonate podcast with Aideen, and today I'm interviewing Michèle Sennesael, a coach and photographer based in Brussels, Belgium, working worldwide. She helps ambitious women and creative souls move from self-doubt to self-trust, and from hiding to being seen. Through her work, Michèle guides people to see their worth, embody their truth, and express who they truly are. You're very welcome, Michèle.
Hey, Aideen, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm very excited to have a long conversation with you that we can share with others because I know your story is very inspirational. What started as, not being happy in what you were doing to grasping onto your creative spirit and what you really truly wanted to do, and going on a journey that was about trusting your instinct, your intuition has led you now to helping others to do the same. Tell us a little bit about where you were before you started this journey.
Well, thank you for putting it out this way, Aideen. I'm reminding myself actually about this path I took. And it all started out when I was working as a photo editor for the biggest newspaper in Belgium. Um, yeah, that's where I started. The job that I thought that would make me happy, a prestigious job. But actually, what I found was that I was very unhappy. I wasn't feeling, I was numbing myself. And I didn't feel aligned with my own values, what I thought was important. And I knew I had to do something to change something.
That's an uncomfortable place to be, isn't it? It's like when you know you need to change something, but it also takes a lot of courage because you're moving more into the unknown. It's not your thought patterns, not your logical mind that knows this is my path now. I can see all the steps. You don't know any of the steps when you go from that point. It's good not to know. Like I think a lot of people do feel very uncomfortable when in the unknowing, but that's where it's like an incubator for the secret ideas or the secret wishes that are within
Mhm.
us.
Mhm.
So
That's so true. That's so true. And it's exactly what you say. I felt something and I just had to surrender to that unknowing. And I believe, Aideen, the only way to do that is to go into your heart
mhm.
and to really, to have courage is to live by the heart and not by your thoughts. So, there was something brewing in my head, but I didn't know exactly the clear path until something happened at the newspaper. You might remember as well in 2010, there was an earthquake in Haiti.
Mhm.
And then I realized the power of imagery, actually. Because of images that were spreading very rapidly all over the world, what happened in Haiti, the news spread, but it was the impact of the imagery that caused the effect of people collaborating, coming together, and in a whim, um, everyone just started to collect money and contribute to the people who suffered in Haiti. And that was the moment that everything clicked for me.
What was going through your mind?
I saw initially, I thought, very interesting. Finally, instead of focusing on the negativity, the newspapers collaborated, the television, everyone in Belgium was collaborating, and it became a positive story.
Mhm.
And that was for me the thing, what if I use photography as a way to create something positively and to really shift a story. And that's what I wanted to do. And that's why I decided to leave my job. And I thought, I believed I could change something, and I believed I could do something with photography. And that belief was so big, I didn't hesitate. I just jumped, and I left. And I thought, I'm gonna use my camera to shed a light on something which is not seen. And that, in my case, were street children in Nicaragua with whom I collaborated, and I organized photography workshops with them to see their lives in a different way, using photography to see things differently.
And that wasn't just for you to see those things differently, it was for the kids to see their own lives differently, right?
That was initially the idea, indeed. But actually, what I understood later is, and it's going that way many times. You do something, at least in my life, I do something, and it isn't years later or sometime later that you really understand what you were doing. I use that to see their lives differently, but actually they didn't need me. I needed them unconsciously, and they taught me to see things differently.
What did you learn from that experience then?
Well, first of all, what I learned was that we're so much brighter. We have so much more power than we believe us to have. We're so powerful. Curiosity is also something which is extremely important. And really, when you listen to your heart, you can't go wrong.
Hmm.
And everything always unfolds perfectly then. So the unknown leads you to the pure you. And there's nothing to be afraid of then.
I love that. The unknown leads you to the pure you, and there's nothing to be afraid of then. What a journey. And I know the photography has continued to be almost your teacher throughout your
Mhm.
life. Tell us a little more about how photography has brought you to where you are today.
Well, just like I started my journey, just following the next step and the next step, and just leading myself to my trusting my intuition. Um, I went back to Nicaragua several times because I fell in love with the people, and I healed actually, documenting daily life of poor families in the slums. I healed my own family issues. And then I went back to Nicaragua, but then I shifted my lens. And looking back, actually, I realized later that I went back to my head and maybe it was out of fear because the situation was also different in Nicaragua. Anyways, I turned back to Nicaragua to document political issues, and then I got arrested.
Whoa. That must have been scary.
Yeah, yeah, very scary. But as you might know as well, Aideen, the things that are scary are the things that they happen for a reason. And I learned a lot out of this. So I lost everything, but looking back, I had to lose even more. I had to strip away all the masks and all the fear. And it was almost literally that it happened. Yeah.
Wow. No, I was commenting on something similar to my husband yesterday that sometimes having less or being in a difficult situation, it helps you realize the grace that we have in our
Mm,
lives, and that we're not really the agent for change that we think we are. That a lot of what happens is because of synchronicity and coincidence or luck or divine inspiration, or, the right place at the right time.
mm-hmm,
And a part of our minds and our ego
mm,
believes that we are doing it, that we are doing it. And when
mm,
you have had a situation like you've had there, and I've had similar, not as dramatic
mm,
situations, but where you kind of feel like, oh my God, it's all falling apart, or I have to surrender now in some way. When you start again, you are more aware of that you're stepping into, that each moment is a step into the unknown, that we don't really control everything
mm,
the way
mm,
we thought we did before that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree, and I totally agree what you say. And also, what comes to mind is you never ever start from scratch. Actually, it's building upon the things that you already knew, but you had to remember, and things are just happening because it's an opportunity to learn something and not to make the same mistake. And to be honest with you, I knew that there was a chance to be arrested. I wasn't the only one who got arrested, but I feared it also. So I gave the fear the power, and then what you think becomes reality oftentimes.
Mm-hmm.
So this may sound a little controversial, but sometimes I really believe that, yeah, what you believe becomes reality. So if I could have thought differently, might have been, we never know, but might have been a different story.
Mm-hmm. You
But
mentioned
that's what I
earlier,
needed.
yeah, you mentioned earlier that it was, you went back to your head, that you weren't maybe
Mm-hmm.
operating from your heart in the
Mm-hmm.
same way. And I know that what I was thinking there was that it's just a habit. If you've been, and then you start working with, within the newspaper system again, or whatever it is, it's like, well, that's the way your operating system worked
Mm-hmm.
when you were there before. And it's so easy to slip back into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, having had that experience, did that make you more resolved to follow your heart? What was your, like, or did you continue to listen more to the mind for a while? At what point did you fully surrender to the heart?
It's interesting. When I got back in Belgium, so they confiscated all my stuff, everything, and I had no more camera, nothing. But I surrendered completely. And I remember that was a time that I spent a lot of time outside in nature. And um, I started doing things that, as if took, some control took over me by surrendering. So I really started hugging trees a lot, for example.
Good. I love that.
I, it was something I needed to do. And now I'm going to say something, Aideen, I never told anyone before. I started talking to Source, to God, to the universe, whatever you call it. And I really had those conversations. Please give me an answer and help me what to do, because I had no clue. I had no clue what to do, but I felt I was surrendering. I was just going with it. And I remember at some point I had just had that conversation, and I went sitting on a bench, and I swear I hadn't seen anyone around me. And out of the blue, there was that lady that came sitting next to me, and she started a conversation. And I just told her everything that happened. I needed to share my story with someone and to feel safe. And she listened. She listened. And then she asked me the question, but if you really like photography that much, why don't you start to find another job and buy another camera? And then I thought, oh my God, it's so simple. And that's what I did.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh, I love that. And it mirrors a story of my own when I was at my rock bottom, and I just at one point said to like that to source, or like it was like a cry for help.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm doing. And it's such
Mm-hmm.
a liberating feeling to know that, because up until that point, I thought I knew what I was doing, and I had none of it had really worked. There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, it wasn't a solid foundation for me to grow. And when I made my request, I didn't have an actual person speak what I needed to do next. I actually heard a voice in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you have listened to the podcast before might have heard the story before, but I actually heard a voice saying, do a singing workshop for adults.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I knew it wasn't my own idea was because I didn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, well, I thought, I said, I want to do something with music. I want to spend most of my time doing music. Help me to do that. That's all I wanted. And I said, do a singing workshop for adults. And I was like, well, what about, singing at weddings? What about all the other things that I had thought of in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
my logical mind?
Mm-hmm.
But this voice was saying, try this. And it was the first time I really decided to trust.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of going, okay, I'm just doing that, I said, okay, I'll take a next step toward that. And I just took one step at a time, trusting this little inner voice of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you had it, that someone magical, and I have had things delivered to me through other people as well. When
Mm-hmm.
someone says that one thing and it like echoes through your mind forever, like you've never forgotten her words.
Mm.
And yeah, amazing. And so that was like starting again from fresh.
That was starting in from fresh, and it was just the start of starting again.
But earlier you said that you never lose anything, that it's never completely from scratch, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did you take with you into this new phase?
Trusting my own ability and trusting that you're never alone and you can't go wrong.
Yeah, the worst had already happened to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was nothing you could be,
There's nothing to lose anymore. I
yeah.
lost it already also.
Mm-hmm.
And then I reached out to two newspapers and I announced my story just to inform other people that there's a possibility to be arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't want to go deeper into that story, but that spread the word, opened the doors, and people from Nicaragua, from all over the world, started to connect with me.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, there was a beautiful friendship that developed with someone from a Nicaraguan man, but he lived in the States. And he said, so I still didn't know the next step. And he said, why don't you come to New York? And that was the next invitation.
Wow.
And my logical mind didn't even pop up. It was like, okay, that sounds weird, but I'll go for it.
I love it.
So yeah, and that was just the beginning of one point to another, and it brought me from New York to there I met someone who really encouraged me to focus more on my photography. It was a Pulitzer Prize winner. People believed in me. I met all those beautiful teachers. You know, they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears,
Yeah.
and they all passed and they all joined me. So from one thing opened up to another thing. I had to, at some point, I had an assignment in New York and I had to take pictures of, um, I had to invite myself actually to a place where, of a stranger, and I had to document an evening at that stranger's place.
Hmm.
And of course, it was not, I bumped into a person and it was a mother with her child, and it was just a mirror for me of who I was. And that led to, she was a doula. So she was helping women giving birth a smooth time. And I thought, this is not a coincidence. So I started documenting women giving birth in their house, natural home births. Um, and then I continued doing this in Latin America. So actually, what I was doing, just trusting the whole process, I allowed myself to being born again. That's how I see it.
Because of that mirror of seeing these babies being born in their own home, you were also like that baby being born again
Hmm.
into a different version of yourself, a different version of your life.
Yeah.
Yes. And did that lady who, the doula that invited you to do that, was it partly to do with her friendship or her energy that helped you? Was she a doula for you as well in some way?
She made me feel very safe. Actually, she held space.
And that's what a doula does. I mean, and not everybody knows what a doula is, but they are a non-medically trained
Hmm.
midwife slash helper
Hmm.
for women during the birthing process from the moment of the first contraction, helping them with pre-birth and also postpartum. Doulas as well will help mothers in the home with adjusting through breastfeeding and lots of different things. It's quite popular in the US. I'm sure in New
Hmm.
York was quite a normal thing at that time. That's quite a
Yeah.
while ago as well, right?
Yeah. 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 It was very popular. Um, very. At some point, I was in Costa Rica and I met a doula who, yeah, celebrities flew over to Costa Rica to see her.
Wow.
So and that's the thing, that holding space, that was something. So I was seen by others and they held space for me.
Mm.
And that is something, coming back to your previous question, the link from going from being a photographer to a coach. That's what I realized after time, that I saw so many people in front of my lens and somehow they felt safe because I held space for them to
Hmm.
be who they are. And just taking pictures of them wasn't feeling enough. So that's how it landed into have trainings and yeah, train myself into a coach.
So how does, because I can imagine that you're taking these pictures and you're giving these pictures to women who are going through this rite of passage of giving birth,
Hmm.
and then they get to see that
Hmm.
afterward. So they're getting to also digest um, the experience afterwards differently because they can now see through your eyes
Hmm.
that whole process of giving birth. Was that where you started to realize I want to go deeper with people? Or was the, like, I mean, because I know you combine photography with the
Mm-hmm.
coaching also, and that it
Mm-hmm.
informs the way that you coach. So
Mm-hmm.
how did the working with women in the home births, inform the way that you coach today?
Well, first of all, what I see, I make them see. It's not about, I teach them actually not to see externally, but internally. What I see, their power, their presence, their everything, that is clouded by thoughts, beliefs, everything that is not helpful.
Hmm.
um, I mirror that back to them. And through questions, of course, to asking them questions, and also mirroring, not always, but when I feel that it's helpful, then I take pictures of themselves, or just by mirroring their body language. Um, so it's kind of almost making them see themselves through my eyes, if that makes sense.
Hmm. For sure, because it's I really believe that idea of being a mirror. I think that we all need each other,
Hmm.
and the perspective that we have from our inside our own eyes looking out is a tiny segment of the truth of any situation, that we
Hmm.
can't, as human beings, see more than that
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
our own minds. And when we have even one other person
Mm.
showing us or reflecting extra threads of that back to us, it really helps complete our understanding. So what you're saying there was that you might even mirror someone's body language to
Hmm.
show them how transparent it is. Sometimes it's so easy from the outside to see, oh yeah, you're stressed about that
Hmm.
conversation, or you don't actually, you said it to me earlier actually about when we were talking about your bio, and I was like, the word photographer isn't in the bio, and you were like, I can see on your face, Aideen, it's no good. So and I didn't know what my face was doing at that moment, but you spoke the words of what you could see visually,
Hmm.
and that becomes then like I can see visually as well,
Hmm.
that I can see
Hmm.
that reflection. And
Hmm.
there's obviously wisdom and learning
Hmm.
when we see ourselves reflected.
Hmm. Yeah, and there's also so much wisdom in the unseen. That's another aspect in my journey that which has been very important, is seeing the unseen and the opportunities in the unseen. When I was still in the States, I after the birth stories, I got invited to a master program to dive deeper into my photography and my art at the time. And I've always been very fascinated about the unseen. And there I started visualizing the unseen. So what I did was visualizing sound, because it's all energy, right? It's
Hmm.
everything is energy, frequencies, and just by visualizing the unseen using sound, um, actually all those pieces helped me to, yeah, do what I'm doing today. Um, Showing others, helping others to see the core of what's missing.
When you're working with the client, what do you think is the biggest misconception that your client might have that blocks them from seeing themselves or their power, whatever that might be?
The biggest block is fear. And a pattern that comes back with my clients is, and most of my clients are women, are fear of being seen. And the fear is not coming. It's very interesting if you really go deeper in that fear. It's not about being afraid to be seen, is the fear comes from not being good enough, fear not to be loved. And therefore you start hiding, you start pleasing, you start dimming your light, not trusting yourself, and becoming someone who you're not, believing your own thoughts about it, and you go into a spiral. And that all comes from all things that were said to you and that you start to believe. Actually, it's like when you take a picture of someone and there's the lens is filthy, you start seeing things not clearly.
Hmm.
So you gotta keep on wiping the lens all the time, wiping out the fear, wiping out the thoughts, the beliefs, everything that's in your way to see yourself clearly.
And when we start to see ourselves clearly, we appreciate ourselves more.
Then we remember that we were perfect and whole all the time. And then we don't, then the fear of being not loved or not good enough, then we can flip that. And then we can give actually what we were trying to fill out in by someone else, if we flip that and give that to ourselves.
Yep. So rather than externally looking for the love and belonging or support, you are tuning into that you can give yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Mm-hmm.
becomes your anchor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think that's certainly been true for me as well. And self-compassion and being very gentle and very, it's almost like even self-forgiving,
Mm-hmm.
not being as judgmental, a little less self-critical.
Mm-hmm.
um Give yourself a little cuddle here now and then, and
Mm-hmm.
be nice to yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
and also to tune into when to how you feel in situations. I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
women, when they're busy and they have a lot of responsibilities, they are kind of moving through life just doing things for others, and they haven't
Mm-hmm.
stopped
Mm-hmm.
to go, how do I feel, or what do I even need right now? Do I need a glass of
Mm-hmm.
water? Do I need
Mm-hmm.
to step outside for a few minutes? And
Mm-hmm.
encouraging someone to start to turn to see inward
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
a very powerful practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely like the exercise, just asking yourself the question, what do I want? What do I need? Is this real? Just asking yourself over and over and over those questions is
Yeah.
coming back to you again over and over and over. So it's not about shifting your lens outwards, but inwards over and over and over. And when you look at yourself clearly, then you can see someone else clearly as well.
Yes. And I love that visual, that image of, the dirty lens, clean it. But also there's a focusing element,
Mm-hmm.
where we think we look outside, we're looking for an answer, but actually to focus a lens, you have to turn inward. You
Mm-hmm.
have to feel the, and really notice what makes things clearer for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when we take everything from everyone else, it's not as clear. When we start to tune into our own intuition, our own heart, things can become a lot more simpler, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many photography and coaching. It looks like miles apart, but actually for me, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
What you focus on, that's where your energy goes. Taking a picture, but also for yourself. And a good picture, you mentioned something which is very important. Like, I see many people also, I bet, unfortunately, it will be the same thing in the US. Lots of people go through very hard times right now. They have burnouts and they start doubting and questioning themselves. But actually, a feeling, we when we connect with ourselves, when we focus on ourselves again, and when we start to connect to our feelings and move that through our body, then we can't think ourselves out of something. We have to feel ourselves out of something. We have to use our body. We have to express our feelings.
Yep. And the first person to express them to is ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And even just acknowledging, I'm tired right now, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
um, taking a choice to take a nap when you
Mm-hmm.
don't normally take a nap, it can be very powerful. What kind of simple strategies do you recommend for your clients before we wrap things up today? I'm wondering, do you have anything that you can share with the listeners that is a simple strategy that might help them tune back in?
Well, one of the most simplest things, I believe, is just breathing. That's how I always start my coaching sessions, just by breathing and getting everything that we don't need anymore out of our way and just breathe it out and just come into the moment. And I think if you manage your breathing and also questioning yourself, if something comes up, really ask yourself the question, is this really true? Is this really true? And what will happen if I really started not to believe this thought?
Yeah.
Take action and then really encourage yourself and know that repeat when you repeat things, your nervous system, you will train it in such a way that it's safe, actually.
Yeah. One of the, affirmations that I would have used so much and I still come back to is just, I am safe. All is
Hmm.
well.
All is well.
Yeah. Or all is becoming well. Sometimes it's, I'm becoming safe, or we have to find ways to allow that thought in. Um, and that I am safe, all is well really changes my nervous
Hmm.
system. Like I can feel if I repeat it a few times that I start to, and in most situations we are. And on a soul level, I say that a lot as well. On a soul level,
Mm.
we are safe
Hmm.
and all is well.
All
Thank you.
is well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining me on the podcast today. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the listeners before we sign off?
What I want to say to the listeners would be trust yourself. You have so much more power than you made yourself believe. And like we finished before, all is well, all is good, and just go for it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much to Michelle. I'll be sharing some links to find out about what you do, your website, and such in the show notes. Thank you, everyone who's been listening. We would love to hear from you. If you ever want to give us a call, send an email. We would love to hear what you think of today's podcast. And we are rooting for each of you. So take your next step, trust yourself, as Michelle said, because magic can happen when we tune inward and we see inward instead of always looking outside of ourselves for the answers. Thank you and goodbye.